about 10 days away. Just what's your assessment of your roster as it's presently constructed? Do you see any areas of need, and how do you weigh those areas of need against whatever cap flexibility you might have?
Good question. I think in the cap world, we all have areas that we'd like to fill in a little bit, but I feel pretty good about the depth of our team. I think if you look at our defense, we've been pretty healthy all year, obviously. We have guys even down the minors, PO, so I think if you look up front, you know, we got OC and Z and Houston and Hollander and Bjorkqvist, so I feel good about the depth of our team. Would we like to add a little bit up front? Yeah, that would be a fair statement. But I think every team again would like that a little bit up front or maybe on the back end. So I feel good. I don't feel like I have to do anything, but if we can get better, we're certainly going to try.
Mike?
Ron, it seems like recently one of the it seems like recently maybe some of the depth scoring that you had earlier this season has been missing a little bit. Are you confident if you don't make a trade that you have enough in terms of scoring to play alongside Malkin or to play in Middlesex?
I think when you look at our first maybe 35 games, the depth scoring was there, and then recently, I mean, we could look at the numbers and just show who it's dried up for. So they're certainly capable of it. I think Cappy had 8 goals in the first 35 or so games, and now he's got a goal or 2 in the last 20, 24 games, whatever. So I think yes, it's there. I think there's some guys that need to play a little bit better, but I think scoring is there's a little bit of a feel, and I think even sometimes top scorers, it comes and goes. So I think our guys need to do a little better job. I think when you're not scoring, you dig in a little bit more and get to the net. So I think we can do a better job of that. So yes, I do have confidence if we can't do something that we do have enough scoring. Would we like to add a little bit, as I said, of course.
Matt?
Ron, now that you've had a year plus to evaluate the prospects you have in-house, and obviously you've added to that group as well, what is your thoughts on the state of the prospect pool? And are there any players that you can view as I don't want to say untouchable, but pretty difficult, guys you would really want to hang on to here over the next 10 days or so?
Well, you hear this all the time, untouchable. I mean, Wayne Gretzky got traded, right? So that's the reality of sports. Do we want to get into our prospect pool and our picks? Not necessarily, but if the right thing comes up that will help us short term, but also a little bit longer term, we would certainly look at it. We've talked to some teams, and I have no idea whether it's going to flush out here, but we want to be as good as we can be going into the playoffs, and if there's a move that makes sense where it makes us better, obviously we have a cap situation that we'd have to maneuver around. But if everything aligns and we can add someone that helps us for the push here, we'll definitely do it.
Wes on the right?
Ron, you had called working on deals for Benny Malkin, Brian Rust, Jay Fensel, those types of guys, top priorities. Has there been any further progress there, or is that something at this point that might get worked out in the offseason?
Good question. I don't have an answer for you. We've certainly been working. Obviously, Gino and Tanger are 2 of our top priorities. It's got to work for both sides, and hopefully at some point we can make something happen that works for both sides along with Rusty. So we'll continue those talks, whether we shut them down at the trade deadline or not. I'm not sure yet, but typically when the trade deadline comes, I like guys to focus on hockey. So, but we will work, and if we got to pick them up after the season, we'll do that.
Jon?
Ron, just what's your gauge on the market right now? You mentioned having talked to some teams across the league.
It's hard to gauge right now because there hasn't been a lot done. Typically, the first deal that happens sets the market to a degree. There hasn't been a ton happen yet, so it's hard to say. I think there's quite a few sellers. The East, I mean, it's not typically like this where there's such a gap between the playoff teams and non-playoff teams at this point is typically closer. So I think it's made a few more sellers, but I think there's also a lot of teams that are up against the cap, so it makes it difficult it's really finding a fit. So it's going to be an interesting deadline. I think it always is. I anticipate there being a knows? The market, sometimes it also drops off the last day or two, so we'll just keep a pulse on it. We'll keep conversations going and see if there's a way to help us improve.
Taylor?
The three undrafted free agents you signed, Ananovsky, Frosker, and Goodshade, what can you tell us about them, and could there be any more undrafted free agent signings coming?
Hopefully there is. We like the three kids. You know, we got Gauthier, the goalie out west there. He's a big guy, 20 years old. Actually, Mike Johnston is former Penguins coach, is coach right now in Portland, playing extremely well. Anytime you can add to the depth of your organization, you want to do it, particularly with young players. We had Corey yesterday. There was a lot of teams after him, and it's a tough market to get people, but we've had success in Pittsburgh here with college free agents, so hopefully we have a little bit more. I think when you have the number of draft picks that we've had without first round picks the last few years, you look into that market a little bit more, and sometimes you have a better chance because your prospect pool isn't stacked. So I'm sure that's part of the reason that we got the three kids. Froska's a centerman out of the Ontario League. They're playing in Kingston that we like. He's got good size and pretty good skills in these toolbox. So we're excited about all three guys. And again, when you look at our prospect pool and you can add three kids, it certainly helps.
Dan on your left.
Ron, independent of any trade cost, do you think your team needs a jolt of energy or maybe a little bit of toughness to add as well?
Well, depends what part of the season you look at, I guess. I think the first 35 games, like, we played so well. We had a lot of players out of our lineup, and let's be real, also top players. So I thought we did a really good job there. I think right now I'd like to see a little bit more energy in our game, a little bit more consistency. So from that standpoint, yeah, we'll see what happens tonight and kind of address those things as we go along. And Pusty's up now, and Pio's up now, so there are some things that we can do internally here that we'll continue to evaluate.
Three more. Jeff?
Ron, to an earlier point, to Dan's question, do you feel specifically that you need some more size with this group?
I mean, you always want to be a big team, but you also want to be fast. You also want to be skilled. Like it's always that fine line of do you want to get big and slow and a little bit more unskilled, or do you want to keep your skill? The one thing I know about this team in my year here is that we play through things. And sometimes when you have a team that's not the biggest team in the league, you ask yourself the question, can we play through? And our team does play through. And it's not all about, being 6'4", it's the thickness. Like, when you look at a lot of our guys, we have some Sid's a great example. Like Sid's not the tallest guy, but he's thick, and Sid is considered a big player. So we have a combination where you go height and weight, and we have a different, when you look at guys that are 6 feet, well, it's not very big, but if it's a 6 foot thick guy versus a 6 foot guy that's has an average build, there's a big difference in that. So I don't feel a real need for that. I mean, again, we love all your players to be 6'2" and 220 pounds and skilled and fast and everything else, but it's just not the way it works.
Will in the back line.
Ron, when you were asked about the secondary scoring earlier, you said, it'd be good for those guys to get to the net. I'm just sort of curious. I mean, do you have enough guys in that group where that's a part of their game, and as you go looking to add, how important is that element for somebody that you want in terms of adding that skill set to your group overall?
Well, I mean, yeah, scoring, is something you always want to improve on. And again, if you look at the first 35 games, we scored at a pretty good rate. Things have dried up a little bit, and there are ebbs and flows in the season, so you certainly don't want to overreact to a lack of scoring in your middle six or your bottom nine, however you want to state it. We know those guys have scored. We know they're going to pick it up, and Sully's pushing to help them pick it up right now. So again, yeah, it's something that we'd like to add, but it's with the cap situation and asset-wise and fit-wise, it's all going to fit together. So we'll continue to look.
Two more. Michelle?
Cassie, just what can you say for the job Mike Sullivan has done to, get this team where it's at, especially those injuries you mentioned and all the other types of adversity that they've gone through over the course of the season so far?
Yeah, Sully's done a terrific job. He's when you look at our first, I want to say 35 games, Gino was out, Sid was out, Jake was out, Rusty was out. I mean, we've had a lot of players out, as I mentioned earlier, and a lot of top players, and that's, you know, it's credit to our guys for stepping up, but also for Sully and the staff. I mean, I think Sully's done as good a job as any coach in the league this year, and certainly should be in the conversation for coach of the year without a doubt. It's, I think everybody looks and you see, you know, Crosby and Malkin, you're like, whoa. But when you look at the adversity we've been through and the man Gabe's lost and the man Gabe's lost with some of our top players, he's done a phenomenal job. I think you know, everybody knows coaching and it's technical and it's who you put on the ice, but I think the thing that Sully does really good is the player management in terms of having conversation with players and putting players in situations to be successful. It's not easy. You got 23 guys, and they all want more ice time. They all want to be in the power play. They all want this and all want that. So to me, the most underrated thing of part of coaching is the player management. You know, individually, then collectively, you've got to sell, you know, what you believe in and have them accept roles. I think he does a terrific job.
Last one, Mike.
Ron, if you look more big picture broadly at the vision of this team, Jim Rutherford, when he was here, he put 3 words on it: younger, faster, harder to play against. Realizing you guys aren't going to make dramatic changes overnight here, as the roster does continue to evolve, what would be some words that you think come to mind that are going to define the Ron Hextall and Brian Burke Penguins?
I think what Jimmy said, like you know, come in mid-February and watch this team and like our puck pursuit, our puck pressure, like that's a staple of this team, staple of the way that Sully likes to play. You create turnovers, you create puck possession. I love the way we play. We play fast, we play hard, we play through. I think, you know, the Islanders series, they're not an easy team to play against. And we played against them, and you can look and say, well, we, you know, probably deserve to win that series. And it's like we played against a big, heavy, hard team, and we played through it, and we played very well. So I like the way we play. I personally like hard players that go to the net, not necessarily fight. I mean, it's more 80s and 90s to me. Once in a while, if it happens, but it's more fighting through, you know, playing through traffic, playing through sticks, getting to the net. You watch the playoffs, and that's what it's all about. As you get further in the playoffs, goals are harder to come by. You've got to check. You've got to be relentless. Like I talk about the puck pressure up ice. It's part of the reason we don't spend a ton of time necessarily in our zone, because we put pressure up ice. So I like the way we play. I like honest players. I like hard players. I like two-way players. And again, the way that we play, to me, is history tells you it's been successful here in Pittsburgh, and I would envision things being the same. Would we like a big power forward that can run you over, go to the net and score goals? Of course, like everybody wants one, but there's not a whole lot of them out there. So that's obviously something that every team would like to add, including us.